Welcome to the Nourished Child podcast, a show about childhood nutrition, feeding kids, and dealing with the ups and downs of growing a healthy child. Here's your host, registered dietitian and childhood nutrition expert, Jill Castle.
Hey friends, it's your friend, Jill, and welcome back to the Nourished Child podcast. Did you know that September is Fruit and Vegetable Month? Well, today, to celebrate that month, I have Sarah Schlichter on the show today. She's a mom of 3 and a registered dietitian and the founder, operator of Bucket List Tummy. And today we are talking about how to help kids eat vegetables and really increase their overall fruit and vegetable intake, but alongside that, their nutrients, their fiber, and their dietary variety. So Sarah and I have a great conversation about what it takes to help kids eat their vegetables and do it without harming their relationship with food. So you're in for a treat if you've ever been stressed out about whether your child's eating vegetables or not, or getting enough fruit. Sarah has some great strategies to help you help your child. So you're going to get the research, but you're also going to get the practical conversation and tactics that we can use that really do help and avoid harming our kids. So stay tuned. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Nourished Child podcast. Jill here, and I have a special guest with me today. But before I introduce her, we're talking about fruits and vegetables today. Yes, we are talking about strategies that will actually help your kids learn to like and eat vegetables and fruit. So if you're like a lot of parents today, you are stressing over the vegetable intake of your child. Today's session is really going to be a conversation between my guest and I about where we are with the consumption of fruits and vegetables in children and what we can do as parents to help our kids learn to like them without causing other problems in the process. My guest today is Sarah Schlichter. She is the host of Managing Mealtime Madness. It's a podcast for busy moms and caretakers trying to feed their kids and their family. She also hosts a website called Bucket List Tummy, where she blogs and provides recipes. She also is a media dietitian and speaker and a freelance writer. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Hi, Jill. Thank you so much for having me.
It's so fun to have you here because I know you for as a guest on your own podcast, but also as a professional colleague. We are oftentimes at meetings together, and it's been a lot of fun to watch you grow in your career and raise your kids. So one of the things I think my listeners will really appreciate today are some of these tried and true strategies that you've probably used with your own kids. I will sort of recap some of the things that I did, and hopefully by the end of the show, we'll be able to tell and share with everyone some new things that might be things that they'd never heard of before. So, but before we get started, tell us what a day in the life of Bucket List Tummy and Sarah looks like.
Yes. So we are recording here in mid-July. So we're in the summer. And I like to say the summer in our podcast, Jill, that we did on my podcast, we talked a lot about the importance of rhythm and structure. And I like to say summer, we're a little out of our normal rhythm. Some days kids are at camp. Some days it's half days. Some days they're here all day. So my work schedule is more so pockets of time here and there, and then feeding kids. That kind of just happens throughout the day.
Yeah.
3 times a day plus all of the snacks. But I'm really trying to be present. We started a garden this year, so it's really fun to kind of every morning go out and check on the produce options, water the plants. The kids are really finding a lot of joy in that. And there's a lot of teaching that comes with that I'm enjoying.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing a lot of crafts. We're getting outside. We're going to museums. So just living the life with 3 littles. I have a 7-year-old, an almost 5-year-old, and a 2.5-year-old. So yeah, we're not sitting much. We're keeping active.
I think that's right there a great nugget for parents to hear. Keeping busy through the summer is something that maybe some parents are like, oh, I wish I had a break. But it seems like the wheels can come off the bus if you don't have a schedule, if you don't have busyness, if you don't have a structure. Is that something that you find as well?
Absolutely, especially when it comes to the feeding part. If we don't have our routine, breakfast could be just grazing, which leads into a snack and another snack. And before I know it, it's lunchtime, but we've just had snacks and they're not hungry for lunch. So, to your point, I do find, trying to have some rhythm, kids do well with predictability and structure. So, as the parent, whenever I can create that around meals, and mostly it's serving them at a consistent time and according to the division of responsibility, picking what is offered and then the kids choosing what they will eat. But having that as a consistent thing, I think everyone's in a better mood, myself included. The kids are getting full on meals and not just grazing on snacks throughout the day. So that leads to better outcomes overall. So trying to, in the summer months when schedules are a little bit different, trying to stick to, or even if it changes from the school year, just trying to find what works for your family.
Yeah, I think one of the things that parents forget is that at the end of the school year, they lose a lot of the built in structure that naturally occurs with school. So most families are getting up in the morning and they're making breakfast before their kids get on the bus. So that meal is taken care of. And then at school, kids are fairly structured with food because they have to be, right? They have a regular lunchtime. They might have a snack in the morning. They come home, oftentimes are hungry for a snack. So mom or dad who are at home are sort of, taking care of that. And then dinner happens at a regular time. School year is much more easier, I think, with food and feeding. In the summer, if you don't have a structure, what happens aside from snacking? What sort of things do you see happening with the families that you work with or with your own family?
Meltdowns. I see many more meltdowns. And I think part of this could be, related to the snacking, but just more of a result. They're not getting that nutrition in one setting. So blood sugar is getting a little wonky, energy levels. They're kind of going off my levels, my energy. And if they don't know what to expect from me, that's a lot harder for them. So I think the meltdowns are one thing, lack of communication or just more frustration on both ends.
Yeah.
And it's just honestly without some sort of structure, it's, the laissez faire. It can be a little bit more frustrating at home. Now, I will say on the go, I think, being open to flexibility is helpful, but
Mm-hmm.
you can still take that structure with you. So, for example, I know a lot of families have kids in swim, doing swim team, and a lot of people might bring their lunch boxes to the pool, which is a great way to do that. If you're going to be there, you don't want to skip that key meal and just give them snacks. So
Mm-hmm.
I think preparation is kind of what's behind one of the solutions to all of this. If you can get in the habit of preparing the night before, even if you're not sending your kids on the bus, just thinking through, okay, we'll eat breakfast at home, but we'll be at practice, or we have gymnastics in the lunch hour. So I need to make sure I'm packing something for the kids so they know when and what to expect.
Yeah, yeah. Preparation is so key. Thinking ahead, I always say, or I often say to the private clients that I work with, is your goal is to be one step ahead of your kids. Because if you're not one step ahead, all of a sudden they're a step ahead of you. And they're in the pantry helping themselves. They're in the refrigerator. They're snacking when you don't know they're snacking. And, I think parent leadership is a theme that I talk a lot about with my families, whether it's structure, rhythm, other routines around sleep, what have you. But let's focus on like parent leadership around fruits and vegetables, because a lot of parents, when they come to me anyways, they are, one of the concerns is my child isn't eating enough vegetables in particular, and some of them not enough fruits and vegetables, but they are definitely, very worried about how to get their child to eat more vegetables. So we are going to get into that with some clear strategies for the listeners here. But before we do, help us understand, where we are or where are children when it comes to consuming fruits and vegetables today.
Yes, and this is such an important conversation to have. And if people aren't aware, we do have the dietary guidelines, which come out every 5 years. So we're looking into 2025 and 2030,
Mhm.
looking ahead. But we do have statistics about what kids are eating. And as we know, kind of just as Jill preaches in all of her episodes, the foundation we lay in childhood can really make a difference moving forward, not only in health, but eating habits. So I think it is really important to have this discussion and bring some awareness. So according to the research, on the overall scale, kids are falling short on nutrients, specifically veggies, but also whole grains. So the
Mhm.
intake of whole grains is low. Refined grains is higher, but the whole grains that we want to promote with the fiber is lower.
Mhm.
And something that I found interesting in looking through the data is that as kids move into older age groups, their healthy eating index actually goes down. So the diet worsens if we're looking at, the diet from a 2 to 4 year old, which is probably when most parents are starting to think, oh, I have a picky eater. But
Mhm.
the healthy eating index is actually lower as they get into the teenage years. So all that to say, it's so important that we quote unquote intervene or try to introduce these habits now.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up the healthy eating index because it's very interesting when you look at it. Teens have the absolute worst of all age demographics, even like the elderly. Teenagers, healthy eating index. And for those that might not know what a healthy eating index is, it's a scale of 0 to 100. 100 being you are perfectly compliant with the dietary guidelines, you are following them to a T. I think teens are what, Sarah? 51, I think, is their healthy eating index. And I believe toddlers are at the highest healthy eating index of all demographics. So that age group between 2 and 4. And what are
Hmm.
they? Are they like 58 or something?
You're very close. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're at 61. And
Okay.
then that 5 to 8 age group goes down to 55. And then, as you mentioned, the teenagers just go down further.
Yeah. So we do look at these eating patterns as a way, as a nation, to gauge how we're doing. Like, how in public health, how is the public doing with their eating? And so we use these tools like Healthy Eating Index. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. When it comes to fruits and vegetables specifically, how are kids doing? Like, what are you seeing from the research? What is sort of your research telling you? And then practically, like anecdotally, what are you seeing amongst families?
Hmm. I think it's pretty common that, among fruits and vegetables, fruits are more easily accepted and tolerated. And probably that's due to their innate sweetness that humans like, especially young humans. So, that 2 to 4 age group, they're meeting their fruit recommendations, which is a cup a day. So they're not having a problem with that. They're a little short of the veggies, but they're eating them. It's when we get to the 5 to 8 age group, they're falling a little bit short of even the fruit intake and of course the veggies. And then 9 to 13 and up, they're doing worse. Of course their recommendations are a little bit higher than
Mhm.
toddlers, which is about a cup a day, but still I think it goes to say, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why we may not be meeting these, ranging from access, cost, accessibility, our parents even serving them. And we can certainly go into that as well. But the fact of the matter is fruits and veggies are full of nutrition. And there are many ways that we can be serving them outside of the standard, here's a raw carrot, good luck, enjoy it.
Yeah.
And with kids, I think we do want to be a little creative because we don't want to just preach food is nutrition because it's fun and it's cultural and it's memories and all of that too. So I think when we can tie those parts into offering food to kids, especially, we can really set that foundation and going back to our holding the boundaries and rhythm, set that predictability, offering those fruits and veggies consistently.
Yeah. So you sparked two questions in my head. One is, can we make it pretty simple for parents in terms of how much fruit and how much vegetables toddlers and young children should be eating each day? You said a cup for toddlers of fruit, and I think you said a cup of vegetables for toddlers for the day. That seems relatively easy to achieve.
It does when it does. And then you have the kids who maybe are, yucky, that's yucky. Or you have parents who maybe feel frustrated that, well, they're not going to eat this anyway, so why should I serve it? But when you're looking at the cup equivalent, I mean, we can even just look at servings. If we're serving our kids at least one fruit or vegetable each day, and I like to just tell parents, just serve it at every meal.
Yeah.
We want to get into the routine of always having that fruit or vegetable. Of course, we're going to have other options too. But, if we're serving a half cup of blueberries at breakfast, we're already halfway to our fruit intake. So we could throw the other a half of a banana in a smoothie and have that for a snack. There we go. The veggies, it gets a little bit more difficult in that toddlers, especially when I talk about young kids, may not be as open to just eating them as they will with blueberries. But there are a lot of creative ways we can do so, and we can normalize it and show them that we're eating them, to kind of help that trust in the process. But same thing, a cup of veggies, it could look like just serving a couple diced cucumbers with their lunch, and maybe having some peas at dinner. And if we are doing that smoothie, let's try to add some spinach or something like that.
And for the older child, the 5 to 8 year old who has been falling behind, what are we talking about in terms of total amount for the day of fruit and total amount of the day for vegetables?
Yeah, for those 5 to 8 year olds. So obviously, as children grow older, their bodies are larger, so they do need more intake. So I want to say it goes up to 2 cups a day, or maybe it's 1.5 for that 5 to 8 group. Because now I'm looking at 9 to 13. We're going up to 2.5 cups a day.
Yeah. So again, we're talking, I think, maybe 3 cups total between fruits and vegetables for the 5 to 8 year old. And if you think about a cup, because a lot of times I'll talk to families of these older kids, and I'll just say, just do a cup every time you serve, do a cup. But like a medium banana is a cup. 6 strawberries is a cup. A small apple, is a cup. So it's, I think sometimes there's this disconnect of, oh my God, a cup seems like it's so much, but it's not really that much, especially if you're offering it at every meal and potentially at snack time too. It can really add up. And so I think that's part of the message here is that, you don't have to serve 2 big vegetable helpings at dinner to match your needs for the day. These are things that can be offered frequently throughout the day, and it's how they accumulate over time, over that day, that gets you to that mark. Which I think, for us who work in the field of nutrition, that seems so obvious and so simple, but it doesn't necessarily feel obvious and simple for families who are out there trying to, make sure their kids get enough to eat during the day.
Exactly. And I would actually, you mentioned, serving a cup at dinner. I would actually urge parents not to do that, because that may feel intimidating. That might feel
Yeah.
like too much food, or especially if your toddler or, 5 to 8 year old isn't used to eating that many vegetables at once. You're probably going to get some kickback. So to your point, you can even look at your fist. You said, we have a banana, an apple. I mean, if we're just, rather than thinking about stressing, we have to fill this cup, offer smaller amounts more often, especially for little people. It's less intimidating. They're going to trust the process more. And if they want more, they'll tell you. They'll ask for more.
Yeah, great advice. The other question that got sparked in my head was this concept of familiarity. And that leads me to think about exposure. Can you speak to that a little bit for listeners out there who are looking to, they want to get to these levels and they want their kids to like the vegetables that they're consuming? Where does this idea of exposure and familiarity come into play?
Yes, this is such a great question. And I think it does come more so in with vegetables, so we can try to tackle it that way. But when you think about being a child, you think about comfort and familiarity. So if you're offered oatmeal every day for breakfast, that's a safe food for you. You know you like it. If it's served, you're going to eat it. If one day you're offered, let's say, like a burrito and you've never had that before, it's natural to feel a little curious. Like, what's mom giving me today? I've never had that. I don't know. I'm not comfortable. It's not a safe food. I've never even seen that. So it might take a couple times for them to say, oh, maybe the next day or the next week, we're offering that burrito again. And mom gave this to me last week. It looks familiar. And I remember her saying, the sausage in there was one we picked out at the grocery store together. If you keep doing that, it's going to become a little bit more familiar in their head. So if we were to take that with vegetables, the first few times we serve something new or something that maybe on first try they were like, this tastes foreign to me, it's only natural for them to be a little skeptical. Whereas if we're serving them blueberries every day, they've already built up that familiarity. So usually with the families I see and what I hear from parents are, my kids love fruit. I don't have a problem getting them to eat fruit, but it's the vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll ask parents, are you offering them? Are you putting them on their plate? And oftentimes they say, no, they're not going to eat it. So I don't know how to get them to eat it.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about this idea of exposure, it really is, there's research behind how many times it can take to get them to even try it. I mean, even if you're putting it on their plate and they're not trying it, they're seeing carrots on their plate.
Mm-hmm.
They are being exposed to it, and hopefully they're seeing you eat those carrots too. And again, there's a lot of things we can still go on with those carrots. We can talk about how they're grown. We can go to the grocery store and let them see, let them touch. We can have cooked carrots versus raw carrots versus baby carrots versus shredded carrots. We can try to make it fun and talk about different ways, but all of this just culminates to they have to just build up that trust in a new food. And more often than not, it's the vegetables that are kind of the new foods for kids.
Hey guys, I just want to take a quick break and encourage you to subscribe to this show. And if you can, share it with just one friend. Whether you do that on YouTube or you do it on your podcast app, I would greatly appreciate it. And I also want to invite you to join my newsletter called The Munch. MUNCH. You can simply go to thenourishedchild.com/munch and sign up. Also, don't forget thenourishedchild.com has tons of information for you about nutrition for kids and feeding them, and I hope you will find it a useful resource. Okay, let's get back to the show. Very, very good. Yeah. One of the things that I oftentimes add to the carrot, all the different shapes and forms, carrot cake, carrot quick bread, right? It doesn't have to be savory. You can incorporate, zucchini bread, things like that, where you're kind of pairing the vegetable with the sweet. Sometimes that gets kids over the hump. One of the things we know is we don't know what's going to get which kid over the hump. And so if you're a parent out there, there's a mentality and a mindset that when you adopt it and the mindset is, I'm going to try all kinds of things. I'm not going to stick my stake in the ground and say they have to eat raw vegetables. I'm going to get really open about very different ways that I can offer this because I really don't know what my child's going to like. And children surprise us every day. So my hope for listeners out there who are going to be hearing all these different strategies is to keep your mind really open because, yeah, your child might like a baby carrot and your other child might like their carrots roasted. And yet another child might need to have it in, a carrot quick bread or carrot cupcake type thing. So keep your mind open. You never know what's going to work for your child. The other concept I wanted you to comment about, Sarah, is this idea of early and often. So when it comes to vegetables, when it comes to produce, when it comes to fruit, or how does early and often, this concept, how does this play out to the benefit of families who are trying to get their children to take interest in and actually eat vegetables?
Absolutely. So in the research, we talk about something called like the first 1,000 days of life. And it's essentially just talking about this really important period when we offer nutritious foods to babies to, of course, give them the nutrition they need, but also set them up for the future. And I like to see it the same way as just offering new, different flavors then. So I'm less concerned about what they're eating, but I'm more concerned about what I'm offering and making sure I'm continuing to do that. So going back to that breakfast example, if we're not offering foods for the first 3 years of life, when your 3.5-year-old's at the table and for the first time you're giving him or her a pepper, what's this? I've never seen this before. Whereas, if the first few years, maybe they've been using like a little kid's knife and cutting them with you, or maybe you've put them in chicken fajitas, or you've cut up little pieces and put it in a pasta sauce. They've been exposed to it. Maybe they've tasted it, but maybe they haven't, but they've seen it.
Yeah.
Again, we've already sort of created, or I should say started that trust process because they know what it is. And eventually, when kids get curious, which is kind of the impetus of what I like to do, I like to just spark curiosity through food. So when they get curious, they will taste it. And even if they don't quote unquote like it yet, they're tasting it and we're starting that process. So the earlier we can do that, the better, the more curious eaters we're developing in the process.
Yeah, I love that idea of sparking curiosity because I think that translates to other things too, not just food. And, whether you're, teaching your child to read and you're exploring lots of different books, you're looking for the books that's going to spark your child's interest and curiosity. I mean, that concept translates quite well to food also. There's also just to sort of complete the circle on early and often, there's also quite a bit of research that suggests, in infancy, in that first 1,000 days, for listeners out there, that is the period of time between conception and age 2. In those first 1,000 days, and even in that first, that period of 6 months to 12 months, early and often means introducing lots of different vegetables again at every time you sit down to feed your child. Early exposure, there are several research studies that suggest when children are exposed early and often, they get through the picky eating toddler phase, which I call sort of the developmentally appropriate picky eating stage. They get through that sort of a little bit possibly faster. They get through it with fewer vegetables dropped out of their diet. They just seem to skate through that a little often. And that's not to spark any guilt for somebody out there listening who might have avoided vegetables or didn't offer them a lot. There's still a lot of traction you can get in the toddler years and later on, because remember, children's taste buds are always changing. And so that's the other piece that you can hang on to. Like what your child refuses today doesn't mean that's what they're going to refuse next year. So they're always changing. But to get to some strategies around actually helping your child eat vegetables, what do you have to say? What do you got to share with us, Sarah?
Yeah. And I'm hoping, among this whole list I have, there's at least one or two that might work for your family and something different won't work for your family.
Perfect.
So thank you for giving me the opportunity because I love talking about this. It's, success. I think as parents too, we need to be realistic. Success doesn't have to be eating the entire thing, right?
Right.
Success is enticing that curiosity. Success is eventually taking a bite on their own, without a lot of that pressure. And I did want to just go back to your idea of the carrot cake because that it's so important and genius too. Because if we're introducing new things, if we can pair it with something they already like or a safe food or they're already comfortable with,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're already coming to the table with more trust. So I think that is important. If you have a child that likes muffins, maybe introducing the shredded carrots in the muffins is a great way to start that process.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one strategy right there. What are they already eating, and is there a way to add a vegetable to it or alongside it? Another strategy is make it fun, right? We don't want to be militant and we don't want to put pressure on them because, as Jill has compiled so much research around pressure and eating in children, I mean, just a high pressure atmosphere really isn't enjoyable. And that's not setting the kids up for looking forward to coming to the table. So,
Mm-hmm.
making it fun could look like, making the ants on a log. So with celery, if you have a kid that loves peanut butter or almond butter or sunflower seed butter, adding some raisins or some hemp seeds. You could even add sprinkles on top. We're making it colorful. We're making it fun. You can come up with fun imaginary scenes to play out while you eat your ants on a log and eat it with your kids too. I think it's always important that you are modeling and eating with them so they don't feel like, all of the pressure, all of the attention is on them. This is a community thing. We want to encourage eating together at the table. So another thing, I am a big fan of smoothies and smoothie bars. So if you have, and by smoothie bars, I mean just having a bunch of different toppings or add-ins. And this is
Mm-hmm.
something that I would recommend doing with your kids because, again, we're making it fun, but involving them in the process is another big win we can do here. So adding really anything you have on hand, or if you're at the grocery store, you could ask your toddler or your child, like, what kind of smoothie sounds good to you? And maybe they'll say strawberry banana, or maybe they'll say orange creamsicle. Um, so you can have a bunch of different flavor options, and then you can be adding those safe foods, the safe fruits. And maybe you could say something like, I heard recently about adding cauliflower to a smoothie. Is that something you'd be open to trying? Or I think I'm going to add some cauliflower to mine. Do you want me to add it to yours? Here's what it feels like if you want to feel it. Here's if you want to cut it with your little kid's knife. So we're exposing them, even if they're not adding it to their smoothie, right? We're introducing that idea, we're normalizing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think smoothies can be a great way to do that with greens too.
Yeah.
They can add some fun toppings on top if you ever want to serve it as a smoothie bowl. So that's another strategy we use a lot. Sometimes my kids will be like, "Is there spinach in here?" Because they know I'll usually put it in, and I'm like, "There is," and they're like, "I don't even taste it, but I like spinach," and I'm like, "You do. You've had it in a smoothie. You like it."
Yeah.
Um,
That's
I
fun.
also think, right now is a great time of year to actually be doing the produce when we talk about the fresh produce options that are
Mm-hmm.
available in summer. So even if you're starting now, you're in a great spot. It's a great time of year to start. There are so many produce options that you could pick with your children. Or if you have a garden or just some space for potted plants, that's a great way to just get them involved and start that curiosity. They learn
Yeah.
to take a little responsibility with those plants. Even my 2-year old is like, "Did any tomatoes come in overnight?"
Oh.
So they really do become involved, and it's meaningful to them. So,
Mhm.
they see something that they helped grow, they're going to want to try it. It's
Yeah.
it's just a natural curiosity thing with that.
Yeah. I love that. That's so sweet. My just anecdotally, farm stands, farmers markets, farm stands are kind of or CSAs. I have a CSA share that I get over the summer, and I can't get tomatoes now, so I go to the local farm stand and get tomatoes. And my 27-year-old daughter is living with us this summer, and I've been dragging her with me to all of it. And obviously you're starting young, and I did this when my kids were young too. But even like bringing along your adult child with you. We're going to the farm stand. We're going to go pick up the CSA, and at the CSA you get to choose what you want. And so I let her choose, what are we making this week? We get
Mhm.
5 shares. What do you want to choose? So, sometimes parenting or leadership with food is allowing the child to take the lead and not always being the person who is in charge and in control. And so I love all those ideas. I love the gardening part of it, and just every day the responsibility of caring for plants translates to the responsibility of caring for animals and caring for other humans and caring for our planet. So,
Mhm.
one of the things I hope parents and individuals who are listening to this is so many things that we do with food in children early on translate to other areas of our lives and translate to other qualities and characteristics we want to build in our children: empathy, responsibility, um, good citizenship. These are, we can translate what we do with food to bigger things, and we can take what we're doing on the bigger things. I want you to be responsible for your bedroom. We can take that and translate it to, I want you to be responsible for helping clean up after meals, or helping prepare meals, or helping set the table. So there's a lot of translatability. I think I'm making that word up, but in these efforts that serve children beyond just taking a bite of green beans.
Totally agree. And while you were speaking, I was just thinking too, your example of bringing your daughter to the farmer's market, it's an experience and a memory too. So,
Hmm.
all of these opportunities are maybe things your kids will take with them as they get older. And all of these little experiences do build upon each other, like you're saying, to, lead up to some lessons or things that will transfer over to chores and schoolwork and even just empathy and things going forward. So, yeah, I would urge parents, rather than stressing about the mess they're making in the kitchen with you, to them, this is a fun experience. To
Hmm.
them, they might remember it. And even if the end product is not eating the pizza that they added peppers and shredded zucchini to, they were involved in that process and they have a core memory from it. And it could lead to, of course, future exposures with peppers and zucchini, but it also could lead to other things for them to take the lead with down the road.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody said to me a long time ago, and I don't remember who it was, but it was something along the lines of, if you make food a big deal, food will become a big deal in your family. And I think when you said, if you're stressing about the mess, I was thinking, if you make the mess the big deal, then you'll never get over the hump of exploration, curiosity, trying lots of different things. And so embrace the mess. There's a greater thing you're going after, right? And that's sparking your child's curiosity and exposing them to lots of different foods and the enjoyment. that comes with that.
Mhm.
Any other tips off the top of your head? And if not, I would love to know what your parting message for parents would be around helping them get their kids to eat vegetables.
Yes. One final tip that I really love is doing like a snack plate type
Mm.
meal snack. It You can do it in a muffin tin, which is what we do oftentimes. You have essentially you're giving kids lots of options, but it allows you as a parent, you can be strategic. You can, of course, offer protein rich options with string cheese or jerky or deli meat or yogurt. And
Mhm.
you can offer safe fruits and veggies that they might already eat, whether it's berries or watermelon. But you can also, this is a great chance to offer something new, because when you're serving things like that, it's natural for them to have that curiosity. I wonder what that tastes like, because I love all of these snacks that moms put out for me. So I wonder what that tastes like. So having it serving it in a fun way can be really helpful. And I'll say with vegetables, especially, having dips can be really, really helpful.
Mhm.
Whether it's ranch, hummus, tzatziki, even peanut butter,
Mhm.
for celery and sometimes carrots, giving kids the opportunity to combine flavors and have a creamy option for, a vegetable that might not look as enticing can
Yeah.
be really helpful too.
Yeah. 100% agree with that. Advice for parents as we close this episode out.
I think, being someone who's in the thick of it still, if I could look back in 10 years and tell myself, give myself some advice, it would be, first of all, by even learning about this and taking an interest, you're doing a great job. You care about your children, you care about their health and their relationship with food. So I would say try not to put so much pressure on the outcome
Mhm.
if they're meeting that 1 cup a day that Jill and I talked about earlier, but instead enjoy the process. Let them get messy. Try new things with them. Do a taste test. Have a princess themed dinner and pretend you're the waitress and make it fun in the process, because in the long term, having a fun, less stressful atmosphere for these kids will lead to more curiosity and just a more enjoyable atmosphere. So that was a long-winded way of saying, just try to take some of the pressure off doing everything right and follow your kids' lead and just keep offering.
Yeah. Great. Well said, Sarah. Thank you so much for this conversation. And I really think that parents will get a lot of good information from this because it's well balanced. It's not it's not sort of you have to do this in order to get the result that you want. There's a lot of ways to get there. As I love to say, I'm MapQuest. I'm going to give you 5 or 6 different routes, and you can pick the one that works for your family the best. But there are a lot of ways to help children, you know, eat those nutritious foods that we want them to. And a lot of it has to do with what you're offering and the environment that you're setting up for your kids. So, really appreciate that. Where can people connect with you and get in touch with the work that you're doing if they'd like to?
Sure. So you can find me if you're a podcast listener. My show is called Managing Mealtime Madness, and it's all about understanding the chaos that can come with feeding kids, but we try to make it less stressful and more fun in the process. So you can find me there. And then if you need any kid friendly recipes, family meal ideas, you can find me at bucketlistummy.com and on Instagram sharing those.
And it's at Bucket List Tummy.
Yeah, Instagram, it's at Bucket List Tummy RD for registered dietitian.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Sarah, thank you so much. Really appreciate you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Jill.
That's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Sarah Schlichter. Don't forget to go check out her website, Bucket List Tummy, and check out her podcast, Managing Mealtime Madness. And alongside that, if you have other needs related to your children, don't forget I do have a private practice. I have a couple of spots open this fall, so check that out. You can see all about it over on jillcastle.com. And if you're not getting my every other week newsletter, The Munch, make sure you head to thenourished.child.com, and right at the top of the website, you can sign up for the newsletter and you'll get a free download about how to raise healthy, happy kids. That's it, folks, this time. I will see you in a couple of weeks with our next episode. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Nourished Child podcast, where the #1 goal is to help you grow a nourished child inside and out.